Jimin WLKED, off the interview when Jungkook was mentioned. Fans felt the pain. You don't get to ask me about him, Jimin snapped, his voice cold enough to freeze the studio lights. He stood abruptly, the chair screeching across the polished floor, and walked off set, his mic still hot, his face unreadable. The host sat frozen, lips parted mid-question, caught between professionalism and raw disbelief. The cameras kept rolling. The chat feed exploded in real time, fans typing frantically, flooding the screen with question marks, crying emojis, and wild speculation. Jimin's footsteps echoed down the corridor outside the studio. His breath came in short, sharp bursts as he reached for the fire exit, not caring that it wasn't the designated route. The door slammed behind him, sealing off the world he had momentarily allowed in. The sky above Seoul was bleeding gold, as if the sun too had been wounded by the moment. He didn't stop walking until he was 10 blocks away, pulling the hoodie over his head, the once casual black fabric now serving as a shield from recognition, from judgment, from the memory clawing at the back of his mind. 2 days earlier. His phone had vibrated with the name he'd long since stopped saving. JK. He hadn't opened it. He wouldn't, not after what had happened in Busan. He tried to forget, tried to rebuild. The solo album, the award shows, the smile in front of cameras. All of it felt like scaffolding erected over a ruin. And then the producers told him the interview would be lighthearted, no personal questions, they promised. But of course, they lied. The world always wanted to pick at the wound that never closed. Jimin lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. He didn't smoke anymore, not really, but tonight, the past had its claws in him. The last time he saw Jungkook, there was blood on the studio floor and silence where once there had been harmony. Something had broken, something sacred. And no one, not even the fans who thought they knew everything, had any idea just how deep it went. Nah. Inside a dimly lit bar in Itaewon, Jimin slumped into a booth. The bartender looked up, recognized him instantly, and wisely said nothing. He poured him something strong, amber, burning. Thought you quit, a voice said from the shadows. Jimin didn't turn. He didn't need to. That voice was carved into his bones. Jungkook stepped out from the darkness, his face gaunter than fans would remember, hair longer, darker. His eyes were tired, haunted. You shouldn't be here, Jimin murmured, fingers tightening around the glass. You shouldn't have left that night, Jungkook said. Silence settled between them like ash. A memory flashed, shouted words, broken glass, a truth too heavy to carry. Jungkook slid into the booth across from him, uninvited. You think walking out changes anything? It's better than pretending, Jimin said, jaw clenched. You're good at that. Jungkook flinched but held his gaze. They asked about me, didn't they? Jimin didn't answer. The bartender brought another drink, sensing the weight in the air. Neither touched it. You told them you didn't know what happened, Jungkook said after a while, voice brittle. You let them think I walked away from the group. You did. No, I fell. Jimin looked away, toward the rain-streaked window. His reflection stared back, tired, angry, broken. I tried to reach you, Jungkook said. But you ghosted me. You ghosted everyone, the fans, our brothers, me. You don't get to talk about family, Jimin said. Not after her. That stopped Jungkook cold. A beat passed, then another. She wasn't supposed to mean anything, Jungkook whispered. But she did, Jimin said. And I saw the look you gave her. I saw the way she looked at you, and you lied to all of us, but mostly to yourself. Jungkook leaned back, the weight of guilt pressing down on him. So what now? We keep tearing each other apart in silence. Jimin stood. His hands were shaking again. I walked off that interview because I realized something, he said. I've spent years protecting you from the truth, from the fallout, but I'm done. Let the world burn, let them know. He tossed some bills on the table and walked away, leaving Jungkook alone in the dim light, surrounded by ghosts and half-empty glasses. Outside, the rain had started to fall, slow and steady, like the tears Jimin refused to shed. And in the alley behind the bar, a man in a leather jacket watched them both through a cracked window, snapping a photo with a silenced shutter. He smiled. The storm was only beginning. "You were followed," Jungkook said flatly, the glass still untouched on the table. Jimin froze mid-step outside the bar, his instincts razor-sharp. He turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" "There's a photo of us already circulating on a private Discord server," Jungkook muttered, pulling out his phone and showing the grainy image, Jimin's hunched posture, Jungkook's dark silhouette. Time-stamped. 20 minutes ago. Jimin's jaw clenched. "You brought them here." "No," Jungkook replied. "You walked into the fire. I've been trying to lie low." "And you thought showing up where I go is how you stay hidden?" Jimin's voice cracked with something more than frustration. Betrayal, maybe. Jungkook stood slowly, his figure towering but visibly weighed down. "You're not the only one haunted." They left the bar together, not by choice but by consequence. The paparazzi were always a step behind when scenting blood, and Seoul's alleyways couldn't hide them forever. Jungkook gestured toward an inconspicuous black car parked in the shadow of a bakery that had long closed for the night. "We need to talk," he said. "I've said everything I needed to say," Jimin replied, voice like ice. "No," Jungkook said. "You exploded, that's not the same." The silence between them was brittle as glass as Jimin finally, wordlessly, slipped into the passenger seat. The door clicked shut like a trigger pulled. Inside the car, the atmosphere was suffocating. The windows fogged slightly as the engine idled. Rain tapped on the roof like distant applause for a tragedy no one was supposed to witness. "I should hate you," Jimin said, eyes staring forward. "I think you do," Jungkook said quietly. "I do," Jimin nodded, "and I hate that I don't hate you enough." Jungkook winced. She was never supposed to matter. "But she did," Jimin spat, whirling on him. "She broke our rhythm, you broke our trust. One by one, we all started falling apart after that. Taehyung disappeared for a year. Namjoon started therapy he didn't tell anyone about. And Yoongi almost." Jungkook looked at him. "I know." "No, you don't," Jimin hissed. "Because you weren't there. You were too busy drowning in her to see the rest of us gasping for air." Jungkook's eyes glistened, and for a moment, he looked like the kid Jimin used to share ramen with at 2 a.m. Whispering about dreams and fears under studio lights. "She was pregnant," Jungkook said softly. Jimin stared at him, the breath knocked out of his lungs. "She miscarried," Jungkook continued. 2 weeks before we were supposed to go to Tokyo Dome." The car was silent, except for the hum of the rain. "I didn't tell anyone," Jungkook said. "I thought if I did, I'd be blamed for everything falling apart." "You were blamed," Jimin whispered. "And not telling us didn't change that, it just made it worse." "I was scared," Jungkook said. "I didn't know who I was anymore. Not as an idol, not as a man. She didn't want the spotlight. I tried to keep her out of it." "But you brought it to her doorstep," Jimin said bitterly. "And she brought it to ours." Jungkook swallowed hard. "She's dead." The silence that followed was not just quiet. It was a vacuum. "She overdosed 3 months ago." Jimin's fingers gripped the edge of the seat. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I haven't told anyone. And because I saw your face on that stage today. And I knew. I'm not the only one still bleeding." Jimin turned away, a muscle twitching in his jaw. "Don't come to me looking for forgiveness." "I'm not," Jungkook said. "I'm coming to you because something bigger is coming." Jimin looked back at him. "Do you remember the producer, Kang Hyun-soo?" "The one who disappeared," Jimin frowned. "He was working on our last mixtape together." "He didn't disappear," Jungkook said. "He was silenced, and now the files he saved on his drive, they've been leaked. Not all of them, just enough to set a fuse." Jimin's pulse quickened. "What kind of files?" Jungkook unlocked his phone and handed it to him. Jimin swiped through a folder named Final Demo Tape Uncut. The first file was audio, raw studio recordings, but then came screenshots, emails, one video. Jimin pressed play. There they were, the 7 of them arguing, unfiltered. Cameras they didn't know were rolling had captured one of their final rehearsals, Jin yelling, Hoseok slamming his in-ears down, Jungkook's voice raised, and Jimin walking out. Again. This wasn't the narrative they had sold the world. This wasn't the polished, loving brotherhood story. It was fractured, painful, real. That video hits the internet, Jungkook said, and everything changes. Who's leaking it? We don't know, but they're doing it piece by piece, like a countdown. Jimin exhaled sharply. We need to find out who, and why now. Jungkook nodded. There's more. Jimin laughed bitterly. There's always more. Jungkook hesitated. Your name is in the next leak. Jimin froze. And it's tied to an accusation. What kind of accusation? Jimin asked slowly. Abuse of power, emotional manipulation. They're trying to frame you as the one who made me leave, who kept secrets, controlled narratives. Jimin's face darkened. So they're rewriting history. They're trying to destroy what's left, Jungkook said. Not just of us, but of you. Outside, the rain had turned violent, lashing the windshield in fits of rage. Jimin stared at the dashboard, then looked at Jungkook. If we do this, if we dig, it means reopening everything. The pain, the betrayal, the loss, everything we've buried. Jungkook didn't flinch. Then let's exhume the truth. Jimin shook his head, a dry laugh escaping his lips. You still sound like a lyricist. They sat in silence again, not as enemies now, but as men on the edge of a reckoning. And then Jungkook's phone buzzed. Unknown number, drop by 9 p.m. Your turn, Park Jimin. Attached was a screenshot. An old photo. Jimin backstage crying. Alone, shirt torn, blood on his sleeve. Time-stamped, never published. Until now. What the hell is this? Jimin growled, his fingers tightening around Jungkook's phone as the screen dimmed, casting shadows over his face. Where did this come from? Jungkook's voice was low, steady. That photo has never seen daylight. Jimin looked at him, his expression carved from fury and fear. That was the night of the Tokyo rehearsal, the night you vanished, Jungkook finished. Yeah, I know. Jimin leaned back, hand over his mouth, trying to silence the scream rising in his throat. He remembered that night with perfect clarity, every echo in that empty dressing room, the sting of betrayal in his chest, the blood on his shirt not even his. He remembered standing in front of the mirror, smashing it with his bare fist, not out of violence, but desperation. The last words Jungkook had whispered before disappearing still haunted him. I can't do this anymore. Someone had a camera that night, Jimin murmured. Someone who never spoke up. Or someone who's been waiting for this moment, Jungkook said, to weaponize the truth. This isn't truth, Jimin snapped. It's a sliver of pain pulled out of context and served as spectacle. Jungkook took his phone back and tapped on the metadata. Location embedded. Gangnam. Same coordinates as Kang Hyun-soo's old apartment. He's dead, Jimin said bitterly. You said it yourself, silenced. That's what I thought, Jungkook said. But the last time I tracked his signal, it didn't end in a morgue. It vanished in the server logs of a data vault in Jeju. Someone been sitting on his drive. Jimin stared out the fogged window. So we're being played, and the game just started. Jungkook nodded, his jaw clenched. And they're coming for you next. The car engine finally died, leaving only the sound of rain and breath. Jimin opened the door, the cold air biting at his skin. We can't go to the label. They'll bury this. They've buried worse. Agreed, Jungkook said, following him into the storm. Which is why I called someone. Jimin stopped. Who? A black SUV pulled up beside them, tinted windows and no plates. The door opened and a woman stepped out, long coat, crimson lips, eyes that had seen too much. Yoon Ara, Jimin's voice caught in his throat. Ara gave a curt nod. Still sharp, Park. You were blacklisted, Jimin said. You leaked the Dubai contracts. And they tried to ruin me, Ara replied, brushing past him. Didn't work. I have friends in deep places. She's been tracing the leak network since October, Jungkook explained. Found out there's more than one source. Ara turned, her gaze slicing into Jimin. And one of them is on your team. Jimin stiffened. Impossible. Think again, she said, pulling out a tablet. Someone in your inner circle sent this file to an encrypted drop site 23 minutes ago. The screen lit up with a chat log. User, 7th Shadow. Package confirmed. Jimin's ready to fall. Next, the Tokyo clip. Jimin felt like the floor had dropped out from beneath him. Who the hell is 7th Shadow? He asked, voice ragged. We're still digging, Ara said. But your staff, your manager, your stylist, they're all under scrutiny now. Why? Jimin demanded. What do they want? Ara exchanged a glance with Jungkook. That's the thing. It's not money. It's not fame. Jungkook exhaled. It's erasure. They want to rewrite the narrative, Ara added. Make you the villain, make Jungkook the martyr, make the group's breakup look like you're doing. Who? Jimin pressed. Who would want that? Ara hesitated, then handed him another file. A name stared back at him like a ghost. Minji Kang. Jimin felt his knees go weak. She's dead, he whispered. She overdosed, Jungkook said. She faked it, Ara said coldly, and she's not alone. The storm outside suddenly felt quieter than the one raging inside Jimin's chest. She was behind it all. She was part of something bigger, Ara said. A media syndicate, one that thrives on cultural collapse. They don't just break idols, they break belief. Loyalty, trust, they create chaos. Jungkook stepped forward, eyes wide. She used me. She used all of you, Ara said. And now she's using your pain as a currency. Jimin turned to Jungkook, something dark rising in his voice. You told me she died. You looked me in the eye. I thought she did, Jungkook said, shaken. She left a body behind, a woman same height, same blood type, burned beyond recognition. They said it was her. Ara interjected. But it was. Minji Kang is alive, and she's hunting you. Jimin clenched his fists, then let her come. Ara gave a humorless smile. She already has. The tablet screen lit up again with a live broadcast feed. Breaking. Park Jimin accused of emotional abuse. Former staff speaks out. A woman's face appeared, blurred but familiar. It was his former assistant, the one he'd fired after she stole fan letters and leaked unreleased lyrics. She's claiming you manipulated her, isolated her, Ara said, scrolling. Says you screamed at her, broke her phone. There's even audio, but it's doctored. Jimin's heart pounded in his ears. This is war, Ara said, and they're not playing fair. Jungkook looked at him. Then neither will we. Jimin nodded once. No more hiding, no more silence. He turned to Ara. You said one of the leaks is still coming, the Tokyo clip. Ara nodded grimly. It's bad. Let it drop, Jimin said. Jungkook stared at him. What? Jimin's eyes were steel. Let it drop. Let the world see what they weren't supposed to. No edits, no filters, no manufactured myth. Let them see the truth. Jungkook hesitated. Are you sure? Jimin's voice was quiet, but unwavering. If I'm going down, I'll go down honest. Ara studied him, then gave a small nod. It drops tomorrow. As they stood in the storm, 3 broken souls facing a machine they could no longer run from, Jimin whispered something only the rain could hear. Let them feel what we felt. And somewhere far away, behind monitors and encrypted firewalls, a pair of eyes watched the feed go live. The reckoning had begun. The clip dropped at 9:00 a.m. Seoul time. By 9:04, it had amassed over 2 million views. By 9:10, it was trending in 26 countries. By 9:15, Jimin's name was no longer a trend, it was a battlefield. It wasn't edited, it wasn't dramatized. It was raw, shaky handheld footage from the Tokyo Dome rehearsals, the uncut version, the one no one was ever supposed to see. On the screen, Jungkook packing, his voice breaking from stress and frustration. Jimin silent, arms crossed, gaze unwavering. Taehyung storming out of frame after throwing his mic. Namjoon sitting in the corner, whispering into his hands like a man praying to ghosts. Yoongi yelling at no one in particular, and Jin, trying to hold it all together with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then it happened. Jungkook turned to Jimin. "You don't listen," he shouted. "You pretend you do, but you only hear what you want." And Jimin, still calm, replied with words that would soon be dissected by every analyst, reaction channel, and media parasite in the industry. "I listen to the silence between what you say." And then he walked out, again, just like the interview. The screen went black. Cut to chaos. Phones rang, executives panicked, legal teams braced, but none of them moved faster than the public. They tore through the footage frame by frame, debated every facial twitch, every exhale. Fanbases split, alliances shifted, betrayals were named. The truth, as always, became irrelevant. In a studio downtown, Jimin sat alone, watching the fallout unfold in real time. The silence in the room felt surgical, like an autopsy before the first cut. He didn't flinch as his name trended with words like narcissist, abuser, control freak. He didn't blink when old tweets from 10 years ago were dug up, reinterpreted as evidence. He only stared, hollow, waiting for something inside him to rupture. Behind him, the door creaked open. Jungkook stepped in, holding 2 coffees. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, because he hadn't. "Still think this was the right move?" he asked quietly. Jimin didn't turn. Was it ever about right? Jungkook placed the coffee on the table and sat across from him. "People are calling me a victim." "You wanted to be a martyr," Jimin said, voice brittle. "Now you are." "I didn't ask for this." "No," Jimin said, eyes sharp now. "You just lived your truth and let everyone else drown in it." Jungkook rubbed his face. "We can fix this." "No, we can't," Jimin said. "We shouldn't. This isn't some narrative arc we get to reshape in interviews. This is the wreckage we left behind when we stopped being brothers and started being brands." Jungkook leaned forward. "Then let's stop being brands." "That ship sailed the moment we signed our names in blood and let them sell it as art." "Why are you doing this, Jimin?" Jungkook's voice broke. "Why take the fall when you could fight back?" Jimin looked him dead in the eye. "Because I deserve it." And suddenly, the air changed. Jungkook's posture straightened. "What are you talking about?" Jimin stood, packing now, the words coming faster, heavier. "I did manipulate people, not the way they're saying, but I held the group together with guilt. I used loyalty as a leash. I played peacekeeper so hard I became a dictator." "Jimin, you all wanted to quit," he went on, voice rising. "But I convinced you to stay, not because it was right, but because I was terrified of becoming irrelevant. I knew if we disbanded, I'd be forgotten first." Jungkook stood now too. "That's not true." "It is," Jimin shouted. "And you know it. I needed this group more than anyone else. And when it started to fall apart, I held on so tight I crushed it." Jungkook took a step closer. "You kept us together, Jimin." "I kept you chained," Jimin whispered, "and I lied to myself about the difference." The silence that followed was devastating. Jungkook looked at him like he was seeing a new man. No, the real man, stripped of stage lights and fan chants. "I loved you," Jungkook said suddenly. Jimin froze. "I still do," Jungkook continued. "Not the way fans write it, not romantically, but something deeper, something messier. You were my anchor, my rival, my mirror. And when I left, when I chose her, it wasn't just about love. It was about escaping you." Jimin's hands trembled, but he didn't look away. "She saw me," Jungkook said. "Not the golden Maknae, just me, broken, confused. And I thought if I could start over with someone who didn't know that version of me, I could be free." "And were you?" Jimin asked. Jungkook didn't answer. Outside, the sky cracked open with thunder. The studio lights flickered. Then Ara burst in, breathless, holding her phone like a weapon. "They've released another leak," she gasped. "But it's not the Tokyo tape." Jimin took the phone. The screen showed a different file, one he didn't recognize. Then he saw the thumbnail. A child. Jungkook's blood drained from his face. "No," he whispered. The video began. A hospital room, a baby crying, a woman's voice humming, then a nurse saying the name. Minji Kang. And the father listed on the birth certificate, Jeon Jungkook. Jimin stepped back as if struck. You told me she miscarried, he said, voice barely audible. She said she did, Jungkook stammered. I never saw the body. She told me she lost it, that it was over, that she needed to disappear. And you believed her. Jimin's voice cracked like glass. I wanted to believe her. Jimin stared at the video, at the fragile child with a tuft of black hair and Jungkook's nose. She played you, Ara said, and now she's playing the world. Jungkook's knees buckled. He sat hard, as if gravity suddenly doubled. I have a child, he whispered, and I never knew. Jimin said nothing. His eyes were locked on the screen, his own pain suddenly eclipsed by something greater. This isn't about you anymore, Ara said. It never was. And for the first time in months, maybe years, Jimin reached out, his hand on Jungkook's shoulder, steady, real. We end this, he said. Jungkook looked up at him, broken but breathing. Together, Jimin added. Outside, the rain slowed, but the storm had only just begun. The room was still vibrating with the echo of that one word, child. Jungkook hadn't moved from the chair since the video ended. His elbows rested on his knees, fingers locked against his forehead as if he could press the thoughts out of his skull. The light from Ara's phone screen dimmed, leaving his face half-lit, like a man divided between two fates. Jimin stood across from him, not speaking, barely breathing. The silence was oppressive, fragile. Even Ara didn't dare break it. Finally, Jungkook exhaled, a ragged, shallow sound. Why would she lie to me? Because that's what she does, Ara answered coldly. She builds trust, then poisons it. Jimin's voice was quiet, tense. You really didn't know? No, Jungkook rasped. I swear to God, Jimin, I didn't. If I had. If I even suspected, he paused, eyes filling with a fury he barely knew how to contain. I would have stayed, I would have fought. Jimin took a slow step forward, eyes locked on him. You don't get to say that, not now, not after all the mess you left behind. I didn't leave the group because of a baby, Jungkook snapped. I left because I thought I'd become poison. I didn't want to drag everyone down with me. And yet here we are, Jimin replied, voice cutting. Dragged anyway. Jungkook surged to his feet. Do you think this is easy for me? Finding out I have a kid from a leak, from a woman I thought was dead. You thought a lot of things, Jimin spat, and all of them were wrong. Jungkook took a deep breath, trembling. I should have stayed. You think, Jimin barked. You disappeared, Jungkook, no note, no warning, you let us eat the blame. Because I knew if I looked back, I wouldn't be able to go, Jungkook's voice cracked. And I thought leaving would protect you. You don't get to make that choice for me, Jimin said, his voice suddenly soft but heavy. You don't get to decide who breaks. Ara finally stepped in. We don't have time for this. We need to confirm if the video is real. I've sent the file to 2 forensics teams already, but we need DNA. Proof. Or this entire thing becomes a circus of denial. Jungkook looked at her hollow. And if it is real? Then you'll have to face her, Ara said. Minji Kang is alive. She's moving between safe houses. And if she wanted this leak to hurt you, she's just getting started. Jimin turned away from them both, packing to the window. The Seoul skyline pulsed beyond the glass, a living creature of lights and lies. He closed his eyes. She always knew how to find the cracks in people, he murmured. She found yours, she found mine. Jungkook looked up. What do you mean, yours? Jimin didn't answer. Ara's gaze snapped to him. What aren't you telling us? Jimin opened his mouth, then closed it again. His shoulders tensed. She came to me, he finally said. Before she disappeared, she said if I didn't help bury the rumors about her and you, she'd leak my medical files. Jungkook's eyes widened. What medical files? Jimin laughed bitterly. The ones I paid to keep off record. The ones that showed I collapsed from overexertion, dehydration, and anxiety the week before our Grammy nomination was announced. The label hid it, told the media it was food poisoning. Jungkook took a step forward, stunned. Why didn't you tell me? Jimin turned to face him, a bitter smile on his lips. Because you were busy falling in love with the woman who threatened to destroy me. Ara let out a sharp exhale. Jesus Christ. Jimin crossed his arms. That's what this is, Jungkook, not just betrayal, collateral damage. Jungkook's voice dropped. She used both of us. No, Jimin said. She played both of us, we let her. A sharp knock cut through the room. They all froze. Jimin moved to the door, glancing at Ara, who nodded. He opened it slowly. A man in a suit stepped in, unsmiling. Sunglasses at night, agent energy. I represent the legal counsel of Minji Kang, he said, pulling out a sealed envelope. This is a formal notification. Ms. Kang is requesting full parental rights and protection under South Korean family law. She claims Jungkook Jeon is the biological father of her daughter. Jungkook blinked. She's suing me. She is, inviting you to cooperate, the man replied. Or face a defamation countersuit and possible custody injunction for evasion of paternal responsibility. Ara stepped forward, grabbing the document. We'll see you in court. The man inclined his head, then left as silently as he came. Jungkook sat down again, slower this time. She's not just trying to ruin me, she's trying to own me. Jimin sat beside him, quiet now. This isn't about love anymore, it never was, it's about control. Power, narrative. Ara scrolled through her phone again. Then we take the power back. Jungkook looked up. How? We tell our version, she said. The whole thing, no press releases. No agencies, no filters, a live broadcast, just you two. No makeup, no handlers, one room, one story. Jimin's lips parted. You want us to stream our own trial? Not a trial, Ara said. A reckoning. You either fight this with open wounds or you die beneath the scalpel. Jungkook leaned back, eyes closed. And if we lose? You've already lost everything that mattered, Ara said. What's left but the truth? Jimin looked at Jungkook. For the first time, there was no heat in his eyes, only exhaustion, shared exhaustion. You want to go live? Jimin asked softly. Jungkook nodded. Let's bleed in front of the world. The date was set. The stream was announced without warning. No promotions, no teaser trailers, just a single line posted from Jimin's account. Tonight, no more silence. At 11:00 p.m., millions tuned in. And as the camera clicked on, the world saw two broken men in a bare room, Jimin in black, Jungkook in white, facing each other. No music, no intro. Just pain, truth. And the fire they were finally ready to walk through together. The screen blinked to life with a low hum, the frame steady and unfiltered. There was no production team, no stage, just two chairs, one camera, and a truth years in the making. The room was dim, washed in cool tones, stripped of glamour. No makeup, no stylists, no shadows to hide behind. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Jimin sat with his hands folded in his lap, knuckles pale from tension. Jungkook sat across from him, elbows on his knees, brow furrowed, already sweating despite the chill. The live viewer count soared, past 11 million within the first minute. Jimin looked at the camera, then away. We're not here to clear our names, he said, voice low. We're here to stop lying, to ourselves, to each other, to you. Jungkook swallowed. This is not a press release. This is not damage control. This is what it looks like when everything you built burns down and you decide not to run from the fire. A beat of silence passed. A million comment threads exploded. Then Jimin turned to Jungkook. Do you want to start? Jungkook nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I have to. He leaned back as if gathering pieces of himself scattered across time. Minji Kang. I met her during the Seoul Fashion Week afterparty in 2021. I was messed up, burnt out. We were working 18-hour days, back-to-back tour, and I was losing track of who I was outside of the cameras. Jimin didn't interrupt, but the way his eyes flicked to the side told the audience he was reliving it, too. She wasn't a fan, Jungkook continued. That's what I liked about her. She didn't look at me like I was a product. She called me out. She made me feel real. Jimin's voice was bitter when he finally spoke. She knew exactly what you needed. Jungkook nodded. Yeah, and she gave it until she started asking for more. Access, passcodes, invitations, and I gave her everything. He exhaled shakily. She recorded me without consent. Conversations, fights, confessions, things I never wanted anyone to hear. You didn't tell us, Jimin said. I was ashamed, Jungkook admitted, because I let her in because I believed her. Jimin's lips tightened. And because she told you I was manipulating the group. She said you were obsessed with control, Jungkook said. Said you'd destroy everything if I didn't leave, and I believed her, because I wanted to believe someone else was to blame for how tired I was. The camera didn't blink, neither did the audience. Jimin sat back, his voice almost trembling. I was controlling, but not in the way she painted it. I controlled myself, my emotions, my exhaustion, because someone had to keep us standing. I thought if I fell, we all would. You never fell in front of us, Jungkook said. No, Jimin replied. I waited until I was alone. They sat in silence again, not dramatic, but devastating. Jungkook cleared his throat. The baby, I didn't know, I swear it. I found out the same day as all of you, watching that video, seeing her face, the kid. His voice cracked. Jimin looked down. It's not just about her, or the baby, it's about what we became. Jungkook met his eyes. What did we become? Ghosts, Jimin said. We stopped being people. We became images. And no one talks about what it does to your soul when your face becomes a commodity. Jungkook nodded. Or when your silence is interpreted 100 ways before you've even formed a sentence. Then he turned to the camera. I need to say this on record, to everyone watching, to every fan, friend, or stranger who thought they knew what was happening behind the scenes. He leaned forward. I left because I was weak. I stayed away because I was ashamed. And I let others write the story because I didn't know how to tell the truth. He looked at Jimin. You didn't destroy this group. We all did, bit by bit, with secrets, with pride, with fear. Jimin exhaled through his nose. I wanted to hate you forever. I know, Jungkook said. But now, Jimin added, I'm just too tired to carry hate. For a second, the world watching saw not idols, not scandals, not trending tags, but two young men, raw and stripped to the core, caught in the wreckage of everything they once built with love and sweat. The comments poured in, some praising, some attacking, many just stunned. Ara stood behind the camera, silent, her fingers flying across her tablet, monitoring threats, watching networks spike, keeping enemies at bay. Then Jimin turned to the camera, something shifting in his tone. There's something else, he said. Jungkook's head snapped up. Jimin. No, Jimin said, it's time. He inhaled. I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time, and the pressure to be perfect nearly killed me. Jungkook reached out instinctively, but Jimin held up a hand. I tried to take my life in 2022, after the Grammys, after the cameras went off. I swallowed enough pills to forget I existed. Jungkook's eyes filled. You never told me. I didn't want you to carry it, Jimin said, like I carried yours. The silence in the comments was deafening. The chat slowed to a crawl. Jimin continued, voice firm despite the tremor. This industry doesn't give you space to break, and when you do, they either bury you or sell your tragedy. He looked at the camera. I'm still here, but barely, and I'm not saying this for pity. I'm saying it because maybe someone else watching is holding their breath every night like I did, wondering if they matter. Jungkook finally spoke, voice hoarse. You matter. You too, Jimin said. Then Jungkook turned to the lens. Minji Kang is trying to control the narrative, but she won't. We're not afraid anymore, and I will take responsibility for the child, for the pain I caused, but I won't be her puppet. Jimin looked over, and I won't be anyone's shield anymore. Together, they nodded once, a silent agreement forged in fire and regret. We're done hiding, Jimin said. We're done bleeding alone, Jungkook added. The stream ended not with a curtain call, not with applause, but with stillness. Two empty chairs, a room full of echoes. And outside, Seoul buzzed not with scandal, but with something far rarer. Truth. The aftermath was not silence. It was noise everywhere, from the streets of Seoul to the corners of the internet. But this time, it wasn't chaos. It was conversation, debates, tears, messages of support. A reckoning not just with fame, but with the industry that had turned young men into myths and myths into weapons. The broadcast had shattered every illusion. The pristine masks were gone. What remained was more powerful than image, it was humanity. Jimin stayed offline for 3 days after the stream. He shut the world out, but not to hide. He needed to feel what it meant to just be. No cameras, no statements, just breath, just silence. The kind that didn't demand anything from him. Jungkook, meanwhile, flew to Busan. The hospital records were real. The child, his daughter, was alive. Her name was Hana. She had Minji's eyes and unmistakably his smile. She was 4. She liked drawing stars and hated loud noises. She hadn't asked about her father. She'd been told he was working in another country. When he saw her for the first time, from behind a one-way mirror, he didn't cry. He just stood there, arms at his sides, letting the weight of a life he'd missed crush him in absolute stillness. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He asked for permission to try. Minji never showed her face again. After the failed lawsuit and the stream that unraveled her web of manipulation, she vanished for real this time. Her lawyers dropped her case. Her investors pulled out. Her safe houses went dark. Some believed she fled to Dubai, others whispered worse. But no one truly knew. And maybe that was enough. Jimin returned to the studio 1 week later, not to sing, not yet, but to sit on the old couch they used to nap on between takes. It smelled like dust and echoes. Taehyung had left a sketchbook there, untouched. Yoongi's beat pads were still stacked in the corner. The place felt like a time capsule sealed by grief. He smiled faintly, then picked up a pen. Not to write lyrics. To write a letter. Later, he would give it to Jungkook, sealed in a plain white envelope. Inside it said, "You were never my enemy. You were just the only one who could hurt me enough to make me feel alive. I forgive you, not for you, for me. Jimin." Jungkook never replied. But he kept the letter in his wallet. The label never recovered its clean image. Fans left, fans stayed. New idols rose, trends shifted, but the world remembered. Not the scandal, but the honesty. And slowly, painfully, the narrative changed. Not about perfection, but about endurance. Jungkook visited Hana every Sunday. He didn't post about her, didn't exploit her. He just watched her grow, slowly earning the right to be called Appa. Jimin began speaking at recovery centers, unannounced. No cameras, no sponsors, just him telling his story to rooms full of kids who thought silence was their only way out. And once, just once, they met again. A quiet cafe in Daegu. No plan, no cameras, no pretense. Just coffee, shared glances, and an understanding too deep for words. "I think we were supposed to break," Jimin said softly, stirring his drink. "Maybe," Jungkook replied, "but maybe we were also supposed to survive." They didn't talk about the group, or the past, or what they lost. They just sat. 2 men who had once stood on stages before millions. Now, finally, learning how to stand on their own. Not as Jimin and Jungkook, but as Park Jimin and Jeon Jungkook. 2 names, 2 scars, 2 lives. Healing. Together. Apart. Real.